Oh, y'all already cutting up in the chat tonight. What's going on, everybody? Man, listen, there is no episode of Power Book 4 Force this weekend, but that don't mean the content stops. I can't even tell you how excited I am right now to finally get this collaboration going, and I'm sure you all are excited as well too. My guest today, or I'm his guest as well too, I guess you want to put it, but nonetheless, the collab today with us here at the Culture Collective, empowered by Big O Belt Media, is one, if not the biggest power universe content creator out there. Movie bot. And I'm not going to be calling him movie bot. Y'all just going to have to get comfortable with MB today. But my guy, how you feeling, man? Thank you for joining today. Do I got you there?
Sorry, just went off. Just froze. I think it's my turn to give the introduction anyway. So yeah, no, thank you for the kind words, Nigel. I think you summed it up really, really well. It's been a long time coming, this collaboration. Don't know why it took so long, but happy to be here, and hopefully one of many going forward for Power going forward, because there's a lot to talk about. Power Origins, Raising Canaan, and of course this big season of season 3, which we're gonna dig into. We're gonna talk about a lot of things with this season 3. A lot of OG Power vibes, a lot of talking points. So it's gonna be a good one. Everybody in the chat, welcome, and glad to be here.
Yeah. All right. The first question that of course everybody was going to ask: where are you at? They do not see you on camera, but before I let you answer that, what's your subscriber count right now on
my subscriber? I think the last time I checked, you know what? I don't even look at my subscriber count. I think it's about 170,000.
Okay.
171, I think 173.
So
173.
So if I steal your thunder real quick here, you're about 29,000 subscribers removed from being on camera.
Yeah. 200,000 subscribers, and you'll get me in the black suit and tie. In the ghost attire, you'll see me on camera with Nigeria.
Now, my guy, he said, we honor that as much as it would be nice to see him pop up on camera. He has a goal, and that goal is 200,000 subscribers, and then that means he's getting on camera for you all, his fans, his audience, our fans, and his audience mutually shared. And we look forward to helping him get there. So if you have not, for somehow, some way, you have not subscribed to his channel, y'all make sure y'all do that right now. We have a full list of things to talk about today in terms of episode 9, which is War Requiem, episode 10, which is going to be next week, and a few other news and other pit stops. And I think the first thing we should say, this was not on our docket of things to talk about, but I'd be remiss if we didn't say after the finale next week, we got the premiere of another show that has one of the most iconic power actors being the lead and executive producer in, and that show is Nowhere Man. It's a 6-episode show that is starring Notori Noddington. I forget how you pronounce her last name. Who we all know as Tasha. The show looks interesting. I know we're going to be covering it. I haven't watched a dime of it yet, besides the trailer. But I'm curious for you, MB. What's your peak of interest into that? It's not necessarily Power, but it is a Power alumnus.
Yeah, it's so I've not seen Norton. I believe you pronounce her name, surname Norton. Mm-hmm. I've not seen Notori Norton in anything other than Power myself. I was actually watching what was I watching the other day? I was watching something where Joseph Sikora popped up. But I've not seen Notori Norton on anything else. But it definitely is going to be something that I'm going to be watching. Maybe something that I review. So yeah, excited to see. It does look like a great show. Look like a great show indeed. So definitely excited for that. Excited for Fightland as well. That should probably maybe come later on this year as well. So excited for those two shows in particular.
Yeah. Next thing, I saw something hit my social yesterday, and I was like, "Oh, interesting timing." We have a podcast that has finally returned, um, and I think you know where I'm going at with this. But the crew has it, which is
Oh yes.
we know as Gianni, who we know as Braden, and Macarena Jr., who we know as Tariq. They're a podcast that has featured endless people from the Power universe or anybody in the Power space and supporters and so on. Has returned after a major hiatus. The show was good, but timing, might I say. Have you seen the little clip that they posted? It is featuring London Brown, who we know as Uncle Marvin from Raising Canaan. And they said coming soon, and they just showed a quick little 2-minute clip of Gianni saying some choice words that he thought he might get canceled. But the hype is back for me. What about you?
Oh, I love that. I love that podcast. You know, while it was running with Power Book 2 Ghost, you know, they used to kind of give little snippets and probably got in trouble themselves as well in terms of probably got in trouble themselves in terms of giving too much information away. But I'm glad the crew has it is back. I tend to kind of stay away from social media as much as possible. Yeah. I've not even got a personal social media myself. So but I did come across it on my IG MovieBot page. I did see it. It's going to be great to get to see them back. And like you said, timing is very convenient and very convenient. And me and you were speaking in the backstage and a couple of weeks ago when we were arranging this podcast, and I said, you know, I come from a very analytical background in terms of my approach, in terms of the breakdowns and theories that I give, and the way I kind of analyze things, you look at history, and often in my breakdowns, I say history often doesn't repeat, but it sure does rhyme. And there's something there's a reason why they're probably bringing the podcast back now. So interesting times ahead.
Yeah, I find I don't know. London's is a interesting, and I feel like maybe London was probably an interview they had in the can. To kind of hype, you know, the return, because I would think maybe their first guest might be the hottest actor in the Power universe, possibly come next week. So, you know, you can't necessarily tease that, because you tease that gives away. And I know 50's been doing his own thing, but we know how 50 and his promotional tactics can is always to the betterment of everything, because he's going to draw viewers, but you can't, you know, it's not something you want to put too much stake in, because he could absolutely troll us, the viewers, as much as he troll people, his ops. So I don't know, but yeah, I like your thoughts there. Anybody that's joining us, be a part of the conversation tonight. Obviously, we see any super chats, we will definitely prioritize that, which we already have one in. I'm gonna jump to, but yeah, we absolutely encourage everybody to be a part of the conversation tonight, as we are going to talk episode 9 and then look forward to episode 10 and potential other news and updates and so on. First comes, of course, the homie, one of our biggest supporters, one of the biggest supporters in Power
one of the biggest supporters of every Power channel, DeMarcus.
Damn right. Put some respect on DeMarcus Vaughn's name. $5 super chat. Death predictions. Raheem, Grayskull, Manny Fresh, Che, Shanti, Roberto Ortega, Vic, Cruz, Smurf, Bill Tseng, Bones, and Smiley. All right, I'll let you go at it first.
Damn, that's a lot of names.
Do you agree? Who do you and who do you agree? Who do you agree with from what you see on this list first?
First of all, that's a lot of names, DeMarcus. I mean, you're clearing. He's clearing the chessboard. He's absolutely. It's a bloodbath. It's a bloodbath in DeMarcus's eyes. You got Raheem, Grayskull, Manny Fresh. Okay, let's go from the rip. Raheem. Now, this is one that I do actually agree with Raheem, because he's a character who's kind of, I would say, in the blurred lines. Now, blurred lines, I mean, he's in between two crews at this moment in time. Yeah. He's got Shanti's back, but he's also within CBI. And I think there was right at the end of the war. Actually, no, let's take it back to episode 4, episode 304. He came to see Shanti in the gym, and Shanti was Shanti was having a conversation with him, and she basically said, you know, she's picked the wrong brother, and she's now realized, and she's now going to course correct. And you're either with me or you're against me. And Raheem said, you know, he's always on the side of excellence and beauty. And I think that was a bit of a hint at the time, where he's got a bit of a thing for Shanti, and which we saw later on. And I'm going to come to it in just a moment. But with Raheem, you saw that scene right at the end with the war in the church, where he was kind of just hiding behind the pillar. He wasn't pulling the trigger. Janard kind of clocked him as well from the side of his eye. And conversation between Janard and Diamond just before that as well, he said, you know, if their location is given up, then, you know, they know they've got a snitch amongst their ranks.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what's happened. And I think he will connect the dots, that it's Raheem connected to Shanti. And I do think the state that Janard is in, I've been kind of joking around with my subscribers and my viewers, calling him Junkie Janard Double J. A lot of you are probably kind of familiar with him familiar with those names in the comment section. And then once I let Double J rip in one of my videos, someone turned around and said, you know, Janard is junkie Janard Double J, and Diamond is drunk Diamond Double D. So now you've got those names running around in the comment section everywhere over on social media. So I think Raheem's out of here with Janard. I think he's quite unhinged at this moment in time, and we're probably going to get into it in a bit more detail later on as well. But, you know, just a kind of a snippet in terms of what you know, some of the notes that I've got is the way Tommy will deal with JP's death and the way Janard will deal with his brother's death in Diamond will be two complete separate things.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. So it's one will be able to deal with his brother's death. Not that he's not hurt. Tommy's of course going to be hurt about JP's death. Yeah. But the way he deals with JP's death is going to be different to the way Janard deals with Diamond's death, because he was his big brother and he's not in a good state at this moment in time anyway. But we'll definitely get into it in a bit more detail. But with the rest of them, Grayskull, I can agree with that one as well. Manny Fresh, potentially. Che, now this is one which I don't think I agree with. And the reason being is Joseph Sikora was doing an interview, and I can't remember who it was with, so apologies for not referencing who he was doing the interview with. Now, he basically mentioned you know, Power can always go overseas because they now have a connect in Che. You know, they could go to Mexico. And that really would be that really would be an interesting take. I'll find the quote if I can later on, and read it word for word. But he mentioned how it'd be interesting to see Power go to Mexico, and it would be a great fresh new take. You know, going to Mexico. So I don't agree with Che. Shanti, again, we'll definitely talk about her a bit later on as well. I think she's a character, again, blurred lines in between two. Can you really trust Shanti? Is what's her game? And can Tommy really trust her? I personally hope he can trust her. There was a very bold prediction I put out there on social media, where I basically said, I can see Shanti running his organization in Chicago, because she's very capable. She's tough, smart, strategic. Yeah. She's very capable of running the organization for Tommy, and whatever he needs to do, you know, going off to Power Legacy with a certain potential character. We're going to talk about him a bit later on. His organization would be left in good hands in Shanti Showstopper, while he attempts to go operational multi-city, which is something that they've never done in Power before. So Shanti, Roberto Ortega, I personally see him dying. I don't see him surviving.
Gone.
He's out of here. I think the Marquez cartel are quite amateurish. Vic, you know what? He reminds me of Dre, because he had the chance to get on that private jet and go and leave Chicago.
I hate that they put that in the trailer.
And and he's come back into well, we know he's in episode 10 because like you said, he's in the trailer for episode 10. But it reminded me of Dre when he was on the way, where he was on the way with his partner and baby, and he had freedom in the palm of his hands, and he's just thrown it away. Yeah. And I think it would be now quite ironic if Vic ended up in prison where he had freedom in the palm of his hands. Yeah. Where he was just about to leave Chicago with Ray, but then he now ends up on the other side of freedom where he's now locked up, potentially maybe even for Stacey Marks' death. You know, that needs to be resolved. So Bobby DiFranco is going to be a man on a mission in episode 10. There's no way he is going to let up. So I don't think Vic dies. It would be quite poetic if we saw him in an orange jumpsuit. Cruz, you've got Miguel's right-hand man, potentially. I do think we may see a red funeral. Chenard, Big Smurf, and the CBI rolling up on the funeral. Yeah. Billy Tseng
definitely not dying. I see the cuffs on him.
Yeah. Now that he's been rumbled, by Bobby DiFranco, maybe he gets put in jail for Stacey Marks' murder. Yeah. Could potentially be. But the rest, yeah. So those are my thoughts on those death predictions.
Nice. Folks, once again, in the comments, let us know your thoughts about our guy DeMarcus Vaughn's prediction. The only one I want to jump in here on is I don't see Manny Fresh showing up to the party. I think Manny has been very off put with everything since before, and I think Manny doesn't need to show stake in a what's going to be an all-out war for what. I don't see the point. I do think Shanti will be left standing, the head of Chicago. I said it on our episode 9 recap that one thing power does religiously is right strong women. And I think the fact that you get to sort of establish her as the head person in Chicago is definitely something that fits their MO. But beyond that, it just makes sense. I mean, the Albanians gave love to her, said, wow, you're a woman and you have a pretty big organization. Che, who typically doesn't take meets with new person, was kind of thrown back like, I respect you, even though he had this fake level of intimidation afterwards, but I saw the respect. I don't want to make the comparisons necessarily because I didn't think too deep into it, but you know, we love power comparisons. But is she no different than Rock right now? She's holding her own and she's bringing in money and she has a system and connect that people respect. In a game that does not respect women, especially Black women, running organizations. Raheem, I agree. Collateral Damage, Grayskull. I hope not. I really, really like the actor who plays Grayskull, and I feel like, you know, it makes sense because it has to be sort of an all-out war and whatnot. But it would be real cool to see Grayskull take sides with Shanti and survive. Cruz, I agree. Collateral Damage, Vic, cuffs because he should have just left. Tseng, cuffs. Bone Smurf, gone. Smiley, gone. But you know, just collateral damage. You know, funny, DeMarcus Vaughn, you put more thought into their whereabouts than I'm sure anybody else in the universe right now. Everybody I would assume thinks all those henchmen are just going to somehow just get got one way or another. And also DeMarcus Vaughn doing a little bit of promotion as well too. Cross season 2, which we talked about on our show last week. We would absolutely be tapping in for that. But another power alumnus and the iconic, the legendary Method Man is in I think this is a rom-com. Relationship goes with Kelly Rowland, which I can't wait to see that. I love me some Kelly. Actually, I met Kelly at a BMF premiere one year. So yeah, good to see her back on our television screens. Let's get into our agenda for the night. First things first, let's just give our quick thoughts about episode 9. How do you think this episode, with a week break, I add, how do you think it has served? We're not getting power this Friday, so you know, we that sort of lust, that craving, that thirst for that next episode, we're not going to get it. So how do you feel now, almost almost 2 weeks removed until we get, we'll be 2 weeks removed until we get to episode 10. But how do you feel episode 9 has been sort of marinating with us throughout this time, considering that this was the week that decided to do the break. And by the way, I heard somebody made a comment about they picked the interesting week to make a break. And I thought, yeah, you're right, because they don't always make a break after episode 9. There's been ones after 5. There's been some after 7. So they did pick 9. It doesn't matter which week they do, because you take a break regardless. It still is going to make the finale end on the same day, because that's sort of like their schedule in terms of finale premiere, as we know from other previous shows. Like you get a finale, then you get a premiere for another show. So just like this time, you get the finale for Force. We go right into the Nowhere Man. But yeah, just in reflection, episode 9. How do you feel about the episode now? Do you have some time to kind of let it marinate? And also, we still got another week into the other one.
Yeah, a week in the world of power feels like a very long time. A very long time.
And I think crazy in your thoughts.
Yeah. And I think with power, I think with this season in particular, it's because it's been so intense. Every week and every episode has been very intense from pretty much the get-go. I think Joseph Sikora summed it up really well in an interview with yourself. Actually, he basically said, they're getting all these relationships and all these triangles of these relationships in order right up until episode 5. And when they get to episode 5, the strings will basically snap. And when the strings snap, that's when it's going to be all systems go, and that's when we're going to see Tommy Egan, be Tommy Egan. We're going to see the show. We're going to see blood. We're going to see all the action. And I think ever since episode 5 kicked off, it's been all systems go. And I think with this episode 9, it's had people wanting power like crack. Like back in the day, back in the day, everyone was like, we can't wait for this episode. We need this episode. Someone get this episode. You know what I mean? Everyone wanted to watch this episode, and it's generally brought the OG power feels back. With this wait. So I'm kind of glad with the wait. The reason being because we've all seen the trailer for episode 10. Something we'll definitely dig into a bit later on. One of the conversations right at the end, obviously Tommy's probably in conversation with, he's in the little village in Miguel's bar. He's probably in conversation with Miguel, Shanti, D-Mac, and he mentions that he's got a favor to call in. So we'll definitely dig into it a bit later on. I think with the week break, at this moment in time, it's a very interesting time to take the break. I don't think they've ever done a break after episode 9.
I definitely don't, and
I don't think so.
And it's interesting because like you had Christmas, you had New Year's, you have definitely 2 weeks where you could have slotted that break in, but
chose episode 9 maybe because it takes a while to walk from New York to Chicago, maybe.
Yeah, I don't know anything. I'll say that for the record, but I would imagine with given this time, maybe there's some extra promotional stuff they got to do, extra content they got to shoot. Who knows? But there definitely is a very eerie wonder why they took the break now. But I all systems are go next week, man. I can't wait. It's going to be crazy. But one other thing I want to say is what I really do love, and that you nailed it, is that like the energy back into the Power universe really returned this season. And it's not to say that other shows didn't create, additional fandom or interest, because Raising Kanan is fantastic and goes for what it was also good as well too. But Force was always getting the short end of the stick because let's not forget, Force season 1 had had the issue with the writer's strike. And the COVID, was it COVID or writer strike? But either way,
they just COVID, COVID, and season two had the writer strike where Joseph Sikora, the showrunners, they couldn't even promote the show because of the writer strike, which was very unfortunate. They spent a lot of hard work in terms of putting this show together, and it was quite unfortunate where they weren't able to even talk about their own show that they've put their blood, sweat, and tears into these shows. And with Joseph Sikora, he literally is blood, sweat, and tears in every single performance and every single scene. You know what I mean? So it was unfortunate. It was unfortunate. So
and I like fully agree, and I even coming from us, the journalist aspect, because in solidarity for the writers and actors, you know, trying to get their fair just with a deal, you know, you trying to figure out the thread between trying to promote something that you're passionate about, but also promoting something because they can't do it. But the bottom line and common denominator in this is that you see what the power of promotion can do, because the lack of promotion also nuked the interest from audience and the viewership of those 2 seasons. But you see this now, this season, everything full circle, all the gears are spinning, everybody's thirsty for it, and it goes back to that original feel, which is why I really feel bad for the show coming out the gate, because I imagine they thought they were going to capture this energy right away. You have Joseph Secure and Tommy's story continuing. Of course, you're going to be hyped to see where this goes and who might show up and so on and so forth. But they just never was able to get it in gear because of that. But now, like you said, like everybody's out here like Jannard, man, trying to get their fix each and every week. And they're so damn back, is crazy. And I just can't wait to see how the universe expands beyond this. Because I know a lot of people are waiting for Tariq. I ain't waiting for news to come after the episode air. I'm waiting to hear them either call out a slate of new shows like they did before, or announce another show where, you know, maybe characters from this show is going tours and whatnot, where there's been some rumors and stuff with that. But either way, I'm just waiting to see what the sort of the you know, what comes, the result of this show, what comes next for the universe. So I'm excited. I'm really excited.
I'm excited. Yeah, I'm excited. And for the record, for the chat, you know, me and at this moment in time, at least, you know, me and Nigel know nothing what's coming next week post episode 10. So we have no idea what kind of news articles or information that's going to be dropping. So all we can do is speculate and come up with our predictions, and we'll definitely get into what we think about what's coming after as well.
Yes, sir. First thing we want to talk about for episode 9, obviously JP's death, and everybody that knows. And if you don't know, I'll just put you on a game that, you know, every time I get to speak to a writer or a director, and, you know, we talk about deaths and, you know, orchestrating the deaths and the constructs around the deaths, it's always about what the deaths and the results of the deaths are writing off characters. What does it mean as a sort of a domino effect of things that come afterwards? JP's death is one that I said on the record. And you know what? I'm glad you're here, because I, on the record, said I didn't see this coming at all. I was lobbying for more JP. I wanted to see JP get out the house more than twice. And I just wanted to kind of see, you know, the significance of this character and how it was going to play a part in terms of whether it was Tommy's psychological, you know, well-being, you know, somebody who keeps him sort of grounded, or does JP get out there and start selling drugs? And like, yeah, we know he's grown his relationship with D-Mac and really grown to accept D-Mac for what he was, and who he is, and how that results into who D-Mac is and will become. But ultimately, I was just lobbying for more JP. And then when he died, I was like, holy shit, that was just not on my predictions. But I'm wondering for you, 2 things to throw it to you. Had you seen that? Because we know you go about seeing things and sort of assessing things in a different way than I do. But also, beyond you seeing it or not seeing it, how do you feel about the impact of his death and the ripple effect that it has now caused going forward?
So on the first question, it is something that I did see. I think you mentioned that you went into the show where you hadn't seen the trailer, which I wish I could do that. I wish I could do that, but I think I'd have blood on my hands with my audience base telling me where's the trailer breakdown. You know, the trailer's not even been out for 5 minutes, and I've got DMs saying, you know, MovieBot, where's your trailer breakdown? So in the trailer, I think if you've not seen the trailer, there was a funeral scene. So there's a funeral scene.
I've only seen the trailer for episode 10. That's the only one I've seen this entire season.
Okay. Yeah. Oh, well, that's crazy. That's crazy. Yeah. So, okay. So in the official trailer that was actually released way back in October 2025, there was a scene where Tommy's sitting beside D-Mac, Genesis, and Mireya. And they look like they're in the church. They look like they're at a funeral. So there's a couple of other teasers that STARZ released where they basically showed the funeral, and there was a quote from Gary Lennon where he basically gave an interview. He spoke about Tommy Egan falling to his knees, and when he spoke about Tommy Egan falling to his knees, there's going to be a moment which brings Tommy Egan to his knees. I thought about three specific moments in Power that brought Tommy to his knees. And
Yeah.
that was
Ghost.
Ghost, Holly,
Holly.
and Lakeisha.
Yeah.
Lakeisha, that was all three of them heartbreaking, of course, and those were the three moments that brought him to his knees. And when I read that quote, I thought, piece it with the puzzle, piece the puzzles together in terms of the funeral scene in the trailer. I thought, yeah, JP has to go. And the reason being is not just to bring Tommy Egan to his knees, but also to further D-Mac's character development, because I feel as if he needed to lose someone that he loves,
Yeah.
someone that he loves for him to grow. And the fact that he was the reason behind it is going to hurt him even more.
Yeah.
And, it kind of brings me over to the second point and the second question, quite nice in terms of the ripple effects of the deaths, because for D-Mac, it's, he's still a young kid. It's going to be raw. It's going to be fresh for him. He's going to have to kind of live with the fact that this is his fault, because he's the one who actually killed Mad Dog in season 2.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? He's the one who killed Mad Dog, which was a very reckless kill. And, he's the reason why JP's dead. But I think a lot of us, we have to remember, I think I do get a lot of comments, and I read a lot of comments on social media, and especially X. A lot of people do call, D-Mac stupid, and he's made stupid mistakes and whatever. But I think a lot of people need to remember that this is just a kid. And this is the first time that he's really lost someone close to him. Yes, he's made a mistake, but so did Tariq when he made a mistake back in Power, which resulted in Raina's death. His twin sister.
Mm-hmm.
So, for the first time, back in Power when Tariq lost someone, which was actually Sean in season 2, he had a very different reaction to D-Mac, because he's someone who hadn't grown up in the life. Ghost had protected him and sheltered him from the streets. They grew up in the penthouse in Tribeca. He didn't understand, who killed Sean, why did they kill Sean? But when they killed someone that he loved in Raina, look at the reaction that he had. Very similar in terms of D-Mac. He was full of raw human emotion. He wanted revenge. And we saw that raw human emotion aspect when it came to D-Mac. He did the interview with yourself, with Anthony Fleming, great interview where he spoke about the raw human emotion aspect. And it's normal, because he's a teenager, he's hurt, he's feeling pain, he wants revenge. But I think a lot of people fail to remember, as I said, he's just a kid. You look at Tariq in Power, full of mistakes. You look at Raising Kanan, the young Kanan, full of mistakes. How many times did Rock have to clean up his mess? Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Who in season 1, he went and killed Buck 20, and as a result, he then had to. There was the death of D-Wiz. He lost his best friend. So I think D-Mac is in that kind of stage at this moment in time where he needs to feel loss for him to grow as a character, and that's where he is at this moment in time. And I think with Tommy by his side as well, with his uncle mentoring him, he's in the right place. Mm-hmm. Definitely reckless, and he does need to kind of learn a lot more. Very strategic at the same time. I do kind of make a point of going through both perspectives in my breakdowns. Whenever I kind of break down a character, I look at the good points and the bad points. And the good points, the good points being what we saw him doing in episode 3. He was very strategic in the way he attacked the 9/7s. Janard said, go and hit the stash house. He said, no, that's not the play that we're going to run. We're going to ambush them here. So still very strategic, but still very raw at the same time. And that's where Uncle Tommy will come in. So the ripple effect, it's going to be raw. It's going to be full of anger and emotion. You saw him coming into to Miguel's bar at the end of the episode where he was basically saying to Shanti, "You got the
Hot.
drop on Junard, you know."
Yeah, ready.
Where is he? You know what? He's ready.
Green light gang.
He's someone who's basically ready for war. You know what I mean? He's ready, and I think it's a very raw kind of reaction. I think for Tommy, so much is happening in episode 9 where he barely got enough time to grieve for his brother, which
no one did, which is really, you know, it's something that I actually took like a step back and say, because you're thinking the finale, you're like, it's all out war, it's time to go. But yeah, no one has had time to grieve, because it's been one thing to the next. So the funeral is the proper thing to have had here, because all of these characters are like at this point now in need of it. Kate lost another son. Tommy, brother, hasn't even thought twice about it. I mean, because he's been in protection of D-Mac and really stepped into uncle role there, because while D-Mac isn't processing it or really kind of handling it like, you know, smartly, Tommy also realized he has war at hand. He has his girl, he has the baby to protect. He also has his nephew that if he looks almost like a toddler, you look away for 1 second, he's gone. And who knows what that might mean. And even to your point with D-Mac being so ready to go, I mean, the gun not being ready when it was time for shootout, he didn't clean it. He didn't, you know, the proper treatment in order to get out there. So the gun jamming is something that makes sense, because he's been sort of with blinders on, waiting to get revenge. But yeah, you bring up back to the point. But what else is new here with you? Let me give a shout out to a couple of people in the chat, because I see some all stars showing love in there. First of all, my guy Power is Fire has entered the chat. Marcus Vaughn is still doing what he does best in there. Crucial Thinking 137, a bunch of people in here tonight. I saw some other names too. But yeah, anybody, again, be a part of the conversation, be active in the chat. Again, if somehow, some way you have never came across MB Movie Box's channel, make sure you step over there right now and like and subscribe. MovieBot does all the breakdowns in a way that, as you are being now witness to, in a way that you just never really see when it comes down to people getting and people breaking things down and giving perspective about it. So yeah, and anybody with any super chats, of course, we will prioritize that, read them, and maybe take a little detour on the conversation if it's something that poses a question. So one other thing I will say about JP's death is that I think it's interesting, because I said that, you know, Tommy going to Chicago was because this was a guy that had lost everything in New York. You know, he didn't have his girl. You know, both of his girls have been, you know, were gone, and his brother Ghost is gone, and Tariq and Tasha ain't really all seeing eye to eye at times, and even so, because they are still family, however you want to look at it. But Tommy has always yearned to have his own family, and he went soul searching and ended up in Chicago on his way to California and stumbled across family. And now that he has that, you know, that one thing he's been missing, you know, we're seeing a different light of him. And I think, you know, seeing how he's instantly stepped up to take care of D-Mac and not just, you know, ready to cancel Christmas in ways you would have traditionally have seen him, has shown you the maturity, but also shows you, I think, his value in family now that he has it. But we'd be remiss if we weren't talking about Tommy Egan here, who we know at some point is still going to be ready to go get his hands dirty because of this. But I think it's interesting that episode 9 was an instant sort of retaliation and sort of that sadistic version of Tommy that we know, but more of a laid back, more calculated, and making sure that everybody's protected and everybody's thinking and everybody's, you know, making the right play. But I don't know about next episode. I feel like there may be a little bit of a different approach. And I saw the trailer, so I'll leave some of those thoughts for later. But we'll see what happens. But let's move to the next thing now, because speaking of brothers, we get the D-Mac and Marshall moment. I thought the episode writing who was this episode 9 was written by Terry Coop and James Slayman. I thought they did such a fantastic job in the duality in the things that were being said in this episode, from Jannard and Marshall having that conversation about what Marshall needed to do, and Diamond like a fly on the wall hearing Jannard's approach. We obviously got the Diamond and Jannard conversation about brotherhood and regret and so on. And we get the D-Mac and Marshall conversation about brotherhood and regret and so on. To throw it to you, man, just when you reflect back to two actors out of Chicago, who's had so many great moments together, you would even say at times like, they had moments that may not have been super relevant to everything that's happening in the bigger sake of the show, but like when they were on screen, they were must watch. When you think about these two actors, when you think about the two characters they play, when you think about the arcs, when you think about everything just going back from season 1, what's sort of your assessment about that? And then we ultimately get to the point of just the moment of D-Mac in killing Marshall. Was it the right decision? And what's the ripple effect of Marshall's death?
It's a it's a really interesting question because the relationship goes really, really deep when it comes to D-Mac and Marshall. And there was an overriding theme of brotherhood in this episode with Diamond protecting Jannard. And if you saw it in episode 8, for those who may have forgotten, there was an overriding theme of brotherhood again, where Marshall basically said, "I'm always protecting you." Do you know what I mean? So, these were two brothers, and as I said, their relationship goes quite deep back to episode 1. Season 1. And you could see this coming because there was a big tear in the relationship in episode 8. Marshall chose to stick with CBI, and D-Mac obviously sided with his uncle Tommy. And once he heard that Jannard had killed JP, I do think it was decision time for Marshall. You either are you going to back your brother who you've known since you were 6? In that conversation, when they were having that conversation in episode 9, Marshall said, "I've known you since we were 6. We're brothers." And Marshall even said, "You know what? I love you." And it hits different because I've got 3 brothers myself as well. And when you've got a brother, you kind of expect them to have your back. So, are you going to take the side of someone who not only killed your so-called brother's father in JP, but also set him up to die in episode 3 as well with the 9/7s, where he could have also been caught in the crossfire himself? And I do think Marshall is forgetting that he could have been caught in the crossfire himself. In episode 8, he said to D-Mac, "They were trying to kill you, not me." Where I think he was looking at it completely wrong. If he was collateral damage, you said it earlier on in the death predictions with DeMarcus, collateral damage. If Marshall was collateral damage with the 9/7s, and if D-Mac and Marshall were taken off the chessboard, Jannard would have probably just kind of shrugged his shoulders and gone on with his day. And we saw his reaction. You know what I mean? We saw his reaction when Bones came in and gave him the news that Marshall's dead. He wasn't upset that he'd lost a soldier within CBI.
Yeah.
He was more aggrieved at the fact that he didn't get the job done. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, very much.
Yeah, so he would have just shrugged his shoulders if D-Mac and Marshall both died in episode 3, and that should have been the moment where he picked D-Mac. But I do think what a lot of people may not remember, and it's a point that I raised in one of my previous breakdowns over the past week or so, is the fact that this wasn't the first time Marshall pulled a gun on D-Mac either. He did it way back in season 1, and I don't think D-Mac could let that slide this time. It's either you're with me or you're against me, because in this war there is no in between. You can't kind of stay in this gray area in this particular war. So was D-Mac right in killing Marshall? Going back to that question, I do think he is. I do think he is right in killing Marshall, because he's pulled a gun on you, and he's basically chosen CBI over you. So he is right.
Yeah, I would say the thing I think people can sort of like connect with this and resonate with this, and hopefully everybody hasn't been through something like this, But like, you know, you've had your neighborhood friends, your neighborhood crew and clique or whatever, and you get to like, I don't know, high school, middle school, and you see that one person who pretends like they don't remember where they came from or they don't remember the friendship because, you know, whether it's, I don't know, a basketball, football team they join, or they just get hooked up with a whole nother clique, and now all of a sudden they just forget the friendship that y'all been through and everything y'all been through. I think again, the one thing that shows, all the shows, I think, matter of fact, there's probably just a lot of writers. There's a lot of us. We just mature and we get our life experiences. Is that we tend to forget about the immaturity that we come from, and they do a good job in really nailing immaturity on this show. You spoke brilliantly about D-Mac's immaturity in comparison to Tariq immaturity, in comparison to Kanan's immaturity, but Marshall's also no different as well too, because while he is part of his clique of CBI, and while I guess he tried to do the noble thing and like, I'm just going to pretend like he didn't go, but let's just be honest here, you still were picking them. You didn't want to lose your stature, your position on what was the right thing to do, and that is to stand up to Jannard and them and to protect your brother in a way that we know that his immaturity would never have allowed him to do. But again, they do a good job in really giving both of those sort of perspectives in this adolescence duel of brothers. But yeah, D-Mac had to do what he had to do here. And to talk about the ripple effect, I don't necessarily know where, but I do know that him going to Genesis and kind of ranting and, you know, not really giving full details, I feel like that scene is in there for something. I just haven't quite put it together why, unless it's just supposed to be sort of a testament to Genesis' loyalty to him, that he was able to dump everything that happened and she still just stood by his side, because before, you know, she wasn't so with and for him, and she has her own sort of ambitions in terms of going to college, and now this man done caught a body and he clearly isn't going to school and he's still going to be doing this street stuff. But maybe that was a sign of just us being able to see, like, through all of that, she's still going to stick by his side. But we'll see, because I feel like the funeral is definitely going to be it's going to be interesting, especially since you said there's a scene, I guess, with them sitting next to each other in the funeral and she's there. So clearly she's by his side, but her being there for reasons, I guess, right?
Yeah. Let's see. I mean, as I said, it's for D-Mac, I think he needed to lose JP for him to grow and go kind of even further, go under Tommy Egan's wing, you know, and the mentorship and guidance. But going back to the question, you know, on D-Mac, you know, was he right or was he wrong? Will he regret it? I think Miss 2D516 asked the question, will D-Mac regret it? I think at this moment in time, because he's still, you know, quite raw in his emotion, like you just said, you know, he went to Genesis, he was all over the place, ranting and raving, and that's because he's full of raw emotion at this moment in time. He wants JP, he wants to avenge JP's death, he wants revenge on Jannard, and Marshall was in the way. I think if we ask the question, you know, if you put the shoe on the other foot, say for example, if Jannard had killed Marshall's mom, would D-Mac ride for Marshall? I think he probably would. And I think you probably have your answer there, where he probably did the right thing then. But going forward, you know, he's probably, you know, because he's just killed someone that he loves, and it's a reference. I don't know whether, you know, you caught my breakdown for episode 9, but I started with that breakdown with a particular quote, and it's a quote from a character from Power, Kanan Stark, where he was in conversation with Tariq, and, you know, they were riding, and Tariq basically questioned him on Sean's death, and he asked him, you know, how can you kill someone you love? And Kanan's response was, you know, some say you ain't a real killer till you do.
Yeah.
And I think that was quite important to raise, you know, with D-Mac killing Marshall, because that is someone that he loves. You know, he's his brother. He's known him since he was 6, you know, but everything at this moment in time, I believe, is happening at a million miles per hour for him. He's just lost JP. He's just killed Marshall. He's looking for revenge on Jannard. I think once the dust settles and things kind of calm down, I think that's when it's gonna start to sink in. Do you know what I mean? I mean, you
And,
know,
and I was gonna say, and even if we had another season, it's not happening next season because again, the perspective of maturity, like a lot of adults, a lot of us adults are still working through generational
of
trauma
course.
and things from our youth. So, while he is still this YN right now, we're asking a lot for somebody to process everything that's happening around him. Hell, I don't think even Tommy had fully come to terms with the world around him until he had to be removed from New York to get to Chicago to kind of restart things over. Because, like, you remember the first episode of Force, my boy was driving, he was losing his mind, like, thinking back into the things and sort of like those feelings and those emotions are starting to like re-trigger and whatnot. D-Mac is on 1,000 right now, and the adrenaline is rushing, and it hasn't gotten quiet yet for him. So I don't expect that to happen for a while for him to have a moment to regret. And even if he did have a moment to sit there and regret, I still don't even think he understands the ramifications of what it means to regret something you've done to that magnitude. So it's a very mature question for us adults, but like that ain't one thing D-Mac ain't thinking about at
Yeah,
all.
100%. And I think it resonates with us in real life as well, because when you've lost someone, you're probably dealing with a million and one things yourself in terms of funeral arrangements. You're probably dealing with your business, your family, your kids. You're having to look after loved ones, and you probably don't have time to grieve yourself. Do you know what I mean? You're moving at 100 miles per hour, so you kind of have that trauma built up inside you where you can't kind of release that. And another example is Tariq. He's still living with the trauma of those he's basically killed or had a hand in killing. And an example that he from Tariq's point of view, it was the nightmare that he had in season 2 of Ghost.
Yeah.
He saw off the top of my head, he saw the ghost of Kanan, Ray, Raina was there, Lakeisha was
Mm-hmm.
there, Carrie Milgram was there, Jabari was there. Caden, I've
Cherry
already mentioned
Milgram.
Caden.
I
Carrie
wasn't.
Milgram.
That was not a name I was going to be able to pull out of the sky. But yeah,
Yeah.
you're right.
Joe Proctor. Joe
Yeah.
Proctor was there as well. And he's still living with everything that he's done. And I hope we do see, DMAC going forward, not just in episode 10, but beyond, because then we'll be able to most likely hear that conversation with Tommy a bit later on. Because then, we'll be able to see Marshall's death sink in. Whereas in episode 10, with everything going 100 miles per hour anyway, we probably won't be able to get that reaction straight away. If he is in the show going forward, then we probably will see him kind of have that trauma that Tariq did, with how he's had the trauma of the people that he's been involved with in terms of who he's killed or had a interaction with that led to their death.
Yeah.
So I hope that we do get more of DMAC post season 3, and
Oh, me
then
too.
we'll see.
Yeah, I poked Lucian when I interviewed him a little bit about his future and wanting to see more. DeMarcus Vaughn with a $2 super chat says Tommy could send D-Mac to New York with Kate. Well, my friend, I think I've been thinking a lot about what's going to happen, and I want to address this, and then I'm going to segue into another question I think that ties into this in our sort of our show script today. Is I don't necessarily think Tommy's going to send D-Mac to New York with Kate. And when you talk about D-Mac and who he needs to have that conversation with, I absolutely think it needs to be Tariq. And I absolutely think that the adults are going to recognize that Tariq could be a catalyst of somebody who can understands the life, but also like, what involves with the life. The money for sure. They don't got fame, but you may say the fame, the popularity, but also like the losses because he gets it, But I do think when it comes down to how D-Mac gets to New York, well, I don't know. Well, how does D-Mac get to New York if Tariq is coming to Chicago is the other part of the suspicion that everybody's having, right? I do think that the two of them will at somehow, some way get together and D-Mac and Tariq, and whether it's this show or whether it's the future show, I think there's just a lot they can do with that. And it'll be cool to see Macaroni and Lucian on screen together. It'd be cool to see them on a podcast together too. I think that
It
could
would
be
be.
Yeah, but before I address Kate, because the next thing, which is not our next thing, but we'll just make it our next thing, is Mireya in Mexico. Because it looks like Mireya was booking that one-way Spirit flight to Tijuana, which has a lot of people, including Kate, very, very, very. I'm going to start this one off and say, I don't think it looks as bad as everybody's making it. I think, and I know Lucas disagrees with me, but I think Mireya has proved to be down with this life because she's obviously been a Garcia, so of course she gets it. And with Tommy this entire time, and I know the baby changes things, and I know there has to be a sort of a thought about, well, she has to do what's best for the family. And maybe her leaving is what's best for the family, because maybe it is getting too close to her, but has it really gotten close to her outside of one of the worst hitmen in Power universe? She's been fairly protected. And I also think that Cruz, who we haven't seen them really near each other, but Cruz should be on detail next episode, I would imagine. And Miguel and whatnot. It's not the first time they've had a war on their turf. So I don't necessarily think this was enough to trigger her to leave Mexico. But yes, she's made a call to inquire about a one-way trip to Mexico. I don't know. For me, I have been thinking, could it possibly be Kate? Could she have been trying to book a ticket for Kate, to get Kate out of Chicago, to get Kate protected and safe? Let's not forget that Kate didn't just get ran up on with Jannar and got real close, and she did it by herself. She went out there by herself, and everybody's like, why did she go by herself? Because we know Kate. Does Kate look like she wants security or detail? Hell, she was thinking at all rational. You think she would have been driving Tommy's car? So it's Kate, and we know the attitude and the demeanor that comes with Kate. And it is the only way to protect Kate is possibly getting her out of Dodge. Because although it hasn't happened, but like, let's just be realistic. Kate ain't that far away from pulling a gun herself and going out there for war for the sake of protecting her family. I honestly feel that
she did say make them suffer.
She did, because we know who Kate's about that life.
Yeah, she is.
I wouldn't be surprised if it was a one-way ticket to get Kate out of town right now, so that Kate isn't an issue for Tommy. Because while we talk about the issue of Tommy not wanting Kate to be an issue, and Mireya standing up saying, I'll take care of it, how is this not a result of that? I know it doesn't necessarily, give the big shocking like revelation in the storytelling, but like, this does get Kate safe. Number one, it does get Kate, off, out of the story, or written off for right now. And it just seems like something that it makes sense. She's no longer a distraction. She's no longer a liability. She's no longer collateral damage. And I'm cool with that, because I love some Kate. And we need Kate, who I say is the R2-D2 of Power Universe, because she's just everywhere. We need more Kate, and we can't let Kate die in Chicago. So I don't know.
If Kate dies, we riot. We get down to get down STARZ headquarters and riot. I just want to run it back to a really important point that you made, and then I'm going to come back to Mireya booking the Mexico ticket. You spoke about Tariq potentially actually speaking to D-Mac about him killing Marshall, and it made me remember about a particular scene when Monet basically asked Kane to kill Lorenzo, and he was very hesitant. And he had basically, he hadn't known what Tariq had done basically in his past. A lot of these characters didn't know who Tariq was and what he's done in Power of Two Ghosts.
Yeah.
And Monet said, where's Tariq? Where's Tariq when I need him? And she sent Kane to go and speak to Tariq, because he was someone who offed his father.
Yeah.
And Tariq was the one who basically told him, I've killed someone I've basically killed someone who I loved. Do you know what it basically takes? And you saw Kane's face kind of just drop in that moment. And this is Kane, who's a stone cold killer as well. Yeah. Well, killer question mark, because has he killed someone that he loved? But again, just going back to the point where Tariq could potentially have the conversation with D-Mac, it definitely does make sense. I personally first thought, it could actually be Tommy, but when you raised that point, it kind of just lit a light bulb moment in my mind, back to that conversation between Tariq and Kane. But just coming back to, the topic of Mireya booking the ticket to Mexico, again, just did kind of feel a bit out of left field, because like you said, Mireya is a character who, well, woman who's grown up in this world, and she's a Garcia.
Yeah.
She's not afraid. In episode 2, they were basically walking, having pizza, and they were shot at by the Marquez cartel. And her first reaction wasn't to kind of go to safety. Her first reaction was, by nature, she's a nurse. She went straight to go and protect Bones.
Thank you.
And, and stitch him up and help him. She wasn't fazed by the life at all. And Tommy was basically, kind of apologizing and saying, are you okay? Are you okay with this? And she wasn't fazed one bit. And I don't believe that Mireya is actually fazed by this. I think with Tommy, he's basically got so much that he's dealing with at this moment in time. He's got JP's death, the funeral. He's got keeping Mireya safe, not just Mireya, obviously his baby as well now. So his family safe. He's got to deal with the whole situation around the Marquez cartel, Jannard, CBI. He's got to look after D-Mac now, kind of grow into the role of a father figure for D-Mac. But then, he kind of came home and he's thinking, fuck's sake, what are you doing here, man? You know what I mean? Do I really need this at this moment in time? Do you know what I mean? And they have a love-hate relationship. Kate, Tommy really loves his mom. Let's not beat around the bush. I mean, he's really big on family. He's really big on love. And I think that's something that actually brought Tommy and Miguel closer together as well, because they have something in common where they both love their family. They both protect their family. And, it's an interesting point that you make, where she's booking a one-way ticket for Kate, because I think even she's probably realized that she's probably a bit of a distraction here, rather than
I don't think she realized it. I don't think she ever is self-aware, but I think everybody else around it see it, So, and I mean, like, let's be honest. Like, Kate is a major distraction for Tommy, for Mireya, and for D-Mac. So she's not there. Everybody can focus on the war that's at hand, where we don't know the extent of what this war is going to be. But let's not have Mom Dukes be an issue. Let's get her out of here real quick. Let's quietly book her a ticket so that she knows, and get her out of Dodge, And there's nothing for somebody from Miguel's team to throw her on the plane and get her out of there. She's been bullied around many times to have to do things she didn't want to do. So,
oh well, I think the fact that I think you may have actually nailed it, because when you actually think about it deeper, you see the scene a couple of scenes before where Jannard had attacked Kate in the streets. So Mireya's probably thinking, I can handle myself. I've just gone and killed a, well, apparently a hitter that's basically
she did.
A hitter that basically asked for 3 times the amount of the money and he'll get the job done. There's from Roberto Ortega. She's basically dealt with.
She gained some big XP on that kill.
Yeah, she did. She did. So, I mean, she knows she can handle herself in this life, even though she saves lives rather than kills people. Do you know what I mean? She even said that in conversation with Tommy. She's actually supposed to save lives, but with Kate, she's more of a hindrance, because she can also act like a vulnerability, and we've seen characters like Milan target loved ones, Obi, through the pictures down of Diana, Grandma Estelle, and Braden's sister. So it can be a weakness that enemies can target. And we know the Mexican cartel, Tommy's already killed Roberto Ortega's uncle in episode 3. So, family is fair game. Family is fair game, with a cartel, whether it's whether you've killed their family member or not. I think the cartel really doesn't care. So, I think you probably have nailed it. She may have been booking the ticket for Kate.
All right. I love that reassurance from you, man. I feel like, yes, I did it. But y'all let us know in the chat, man, that one-way ticket that Mireya booked, who is it for? And we'll see how it plays out next week. So going back to one little part that we missed, and I love this question, by the way. Can Shanti be trusted? I don't we got like 3 more pointers to hit, or 2 more pointers to hit. I don't think I have to spend any time on this one. So can she be trusted? Yes. Because when has she ever proved to not be loyal? She had her own plan, and everybody in the game had a plan. And when she saw the liability in her plan, unlike Diamond, who couldn't pivot, she did. And that's the type of person that you want. Because let's not pretend like Ghost and Tommy and try to kill each other multiple times. But like when business and money's being made, everybody's happy. So Shanti's going to be making a lot of money. She's got the introduction with Che. She got the clubs on lock. What's not to be, upfront and transparent about at this rate now? And honestly, she's already laid her cards down. She told Diamond what he needed to hear. He didn't adhere by it. Well, I guess he did adhere by it. I think Shanti is who she is, and I don't think there's any reason to find any deceit there. I think her alignment with the Albanians, with Manny Fresh, I believe is still on her side, and obviously with Tommy, and then with the IPs, I think she's all good. Matter of fact, I think another aspect of the liability here is, now that Che knows who you are, well, if you decide to kind of step out of line, I don't believe any of Che's bullshit and his threatening, but let's just call it what it is, hierarchy-wise. She steps out of line there. I don't think she wants Che on her back. So I think for what it is now, I think it's all good. I don't see any smoke to be concerned about here. But apparently you must do. So I am all ears for this one. What is it about Shanti I'm not seeing here?
And I saw Shanti. No, to be fair, I actually released my breakdown for today that I released was on Shanti and her playing a very clever chess game. When you kind of think about who Shanti is as a character, fierce, strong-minded, loves to play chess. She's a very tough character. She has to be with a woman playing in a man's world. I likened her approach to Raheem to something basically Monet once told Diana. Sometimes to get something from men, you have to kind of give them the fluttery eyes and use what you need to use, basically. So she knows what she's doing. She knows what she's doing with Raheem, and the only kind of doubts that I have with Shanti, I did say she has kind of turned the corner with my thinking. I do think Tommy does trust her a little bit going forward. The only problem.
I think, unless it's me, the only problem was the last thing I heard. You there? Y'all let me know in the chat real quick. Did he drop, or is it my connection? I see the chat moving. Did we lose him? If he did,
back. Can you hear me now?
I can. All right. Yep, they just confirmed it's you. Yep. All right. Yeah. So you said the only problem. That's the last thing I heard.
The only problem, I think, Tommy said it himself, and if Tommy's questioning it, I think we should be questioning it as well. And he was questioning it at the beginning of the episode, where he was basically asking, you're not hiding Janard, are you? Where's you've not got any secret hiding spots or whatever. But as the episode kind of went on, as he was kind of dealing with 1,000,001 things, as Tommy always is. He came out of Che's spot. He was kidnapped by Che, and he had to deal with Kate coming home, Mireya. He had the phone. He had D-Mac's messages. D-Mac was blowing his phone up as well, and he then had to also kind of get the money to Che within 24 hours. And the only person that he could call to get that done was Shanti. And yeah, she did get the job done. You have to say she didn't try any funny business, but at the same time, she's a character who has been very selective in what she's told Tommy and what she's not told Tommy. She's been spilling a lot of secrets recently over the last couple of episodes, and she conveniently forgets to drop her part in those plans as well. yep, Jannard wanted to kill Diamond and Tommy, but so did you.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, you know, she did conveniently forget to kind of leave out a lot of details. But
I don't agree there because, as she said, it is as at's sort of business. I
yep,
am not an
yep,
oversharer, so I'm definitely like if we talking business and then we talking just what the business is, I don't have to paint the whole canvas for you here. You wanted to talk about
yeah,
this nice corner, but I do appreciate that conversation because it was sort of like a checks and balances with one another. It's like, Tommy, you told me to operate that way, and he's like, oh yeah, you're right. And yeah,
fair enough.
asking about Jannard was definitely like a period that ended the sentence. Like, let me just confirm, like, y'all are like done, right? I know there's been a lot of like BS that's been happening, but like it was the right question to ask so that it didn't make Tommy look like he was just such the most trusting person out of nowhere. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But
And I think with I think with Shanti, what one thing that actually stuck out for me in that particular episode was right at the end of episode 9 when they were in the church and D-Mac had got shot and he was on the floor. I raised it in my breakdown just for today for those who have seen the breakdown. She was the one who put herself in the firing line to go and grab D-Mac and pull him to safety. You know, like if they were in a real war, which they are, but if you're in a real war, you don't leave your soldiers behind. You know what I mean? You don't leave them behind. And
man,
she was there and she rode for D-Mac and she pulled him to safety. And I think that was the moment where, you know, I kind of looked at her and thought, yeah, Tommy can trust her. Do you know what I mean?
you
He can.
right, man. Let me ask you a quick question before I get to the super chat. Really short answer here. If Raheem was the one that got shot, does she pull the same move?
Oof, no. No. She's already she's got the money, she's got the meat to chew. It's a wrap for Raheem.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Great Sage 8 with the $5 super chat. I really appreciate you tonight. The question is, how can you not see it? She's always had an angle, so you have to watch yourself with someone with her. She's solely out for herself, and I'm not mad at her at all. I mean, I feel that though. I still think, and I think the show does sort of I'll say like an okay job of really understanding sort of the hierarchy and the dynamics within the game. Like everybody's out to kill each other, but it's almost like it's not personal. It's just what it is, and everybody is happy as long as there's money being made. And as long as everybody's playing their role and doing their part, then we're all good. And Shanti, her whole ambition this entire season, and I would go back as even before, is the respect on her name. She wants people to understand that when you hear her name, you know what it is. And that's why Jannard was instantly a liability. I don't think it was fully about Jannard cheating or with another girl. I think it really hit when Manny was like, oh, you with that crackhead? That's not a good look. And for her name to be having dirt thrown on it and almost being laughing stock, she knew she had to cut him out of that. And I think, yeah, when she saw the homegirl and whatnot, she already knew that, yeah, he's capable of doing that, but he's also on the drugs. The same thing I did so much in trying to help him get off of. And this is just, again, just making me a laughing stock by being by his side. So I think now that not only does she have respect, and again, as I said earlier, the respect of Che, which I know is the big one for her, but like we call it what it is. The respect from the Albanians is a big one. They like, oh, you're a woman and you're running a pretty big operation. Yeah, we'll love to do business with you. Like that measure of respect, I think means everything to her. And honestly, to kind of cheat a little bit, this was one of the questions I asked her in the beginning of the season because we knew that there was going to be tension between the two of them, whether it was going to be love or whether it was going to be business or who was going to be, the head of the table, who was playing what role and what meant the most to her. Because the moment that her name was brought into question, this would be a good time to throw in the Birdman meme, was stop playing with my name. Like I knew that was going to be all that was going to be sort of the hairpin out the grenade, where she just wasn't going to be rocking with that anymore. So I don't think that it's somebody you need to watch out for. But I think when it comes down to her being disrespected, I think that's when she becomes unpredictable. But as long as she's respected, as long as money's coming in, as long as nobody's stepping on her toes, I think she's good. And I really, 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 really can't wait for next week to be like, it is lovely to see Shanti, the king of Chicago. that's exactly how I'm seeing that story pan out. And I also think for long-term storytelling too, I think we want to leave Chicago open. I think we want to have Shanti and Tommy on the same page so that he can revisit it if he needs to. Does he go to Mexico next? Does he go to Miami next? Does he go to California next? Does he go back to New York? It's a lot of possibilities, but I think the idea, as much as we know New York is still there, and now Chicago will possibly still be there, then we like the idea of leaving things open. I think this is the proper way to expand the universe in a way that leaves it as such.
I think it's a great question from Great Sage, though, because it's absolutely a very good question, because you can see a point of view, and Kanan said it best back in Power. There are no friends in the streets. She said she's all about business. If she was offered a better opportunity with someone else, would she take it? And would she stab Tommy in his back? I think with where she is at this moment in time, she's got what she wanted. She's got the connect. She's got the meet with the connect with Che. And now that she's got her meet with Che, now that she's a partner at the top of a hierarchy of the new coalition, which is the new kind of badass team of Tommy, Miguel, and Shanti. Now that she's going to be basically running Chicago, like you said, she's basically got what she wanted. So there is no reason for her to betray Tommy at this moment in time, because if Tommy's going to go off and do what he does in New York, Miami, LA, Atlanta, wherever it is, I think Atlanta's been mentioned a couple of times in Power. Who knows whether they go there next? If Tommy does need to circle back around and, he's in a big war in another new city and he needs to, ring up Shanti and say, listen, I need a couple of guys, they can always go back and forth. And that's how a universe should be, where you can kind of go back and forth, where they've left these threads open. And I've referenced it quite a bit over the last couple of, the last 2 weeks, especially because, we're getting into the home stretch for season 3. We're getting right to the back end. And Gary Lennon basically did an interview with TV Line, and he said, he's left some threads open right at the end of season 3 because, he wants to be able to use those threads later on in other Power shows. And damn right, he definitely will be, because Gary Lennon is a Power historian, like all of us, like all of you guys are in the chat. The moment you saw the Holly Weaver hallucination in season 2, of Force, you could tell that he really wanted to kind of bring Tommy Egan back to his roots and take him back to who he was and take it back to Power. And if you're bringing characters like Holly back, that nobody ever thought that we would see ever again, who knows what he's got planned for the future.
Yeah, protect Gary by any means. And why would you? It's the same thing with why? Oh my God, his name's slipping out of my head. Raising Kanan showrunner.
Sasha Penn.
Sasha Penn. Thank you. It's the same thing with Sasha Penn. We're like, I love the brilliance of Raising Kanan, because while we know what happens to Kanan, why would you rush towards the finish line? Why not take as much time as possible to flesh out the story, to exist in this world, to continuously get checks, to make these characters full circle? And now you can, because you got Origins, which is still not rushing to Kanan's finish line, but you just expanding this part of the universe even bigger. So I imagine Gary's thinking the same thing. Why would I want to shut the door in front of my face when there's so many other possibilities of things and ways I can make this bigger and exist longer? So and Gary and Sasha we trust. Now, Great Sage is back. Great Sage 8 with a $10 super chat. Once again, very much appreciate you tonight. Now, the one that we need to be looking at is Chan. This is a character. Let me just quickly say, it's not. I don't think it's Chan on our. Oh, yep. Okay, I was about to say I don't think Chan is even in our thing, but Chan is a character that not many people are talking about, but the trials have been have been bankrolling the Mexican cartels with the Fent for a while now. He's a secret boss and could lead to a whole arc with Legacy.
Now this is so
this
freaky.
super chat comes
This is
so
crazy.
timely right now. This
It's
is
crazy.
you cooking, bro. You cooking.
It's
This
crazy.
is great. Go for it. You go for this one.
This is crazy because I just recorded a video for tomorrow. I tend to normally do my breakdowns a day in advance. I do them the night before and have them ready to go live tomorrow. And my next one is law enforcement. And I have a topic specifically speaking literally about this topic of Chen. And this is just a perfect question because it's, you know, I spoke about it in my video for tomorrow, and you know what I referenced in my video for tomorrow is the situation with Milan. Back in Power, there was, you know, not many villains that had Ghost spooked, but Ghost was spooked when it came to Milan. And he was someone that was right in front of Ghostface the entire time, and he had no idea that it was him. He had no idea he was the Serbian Connect that was the Connect of Vladimir. And when he revealed himself, he, after Ghost had killed Felipe Lobos, Ghost had thought that he'd finally got what he wanted. You know, he can live his life with the love of his life, Angelo Valdez, and run his clubs and become a legit businessman. Well, Tommy kind of goes off and does his own thing. But then on the drop of a dime, this is a man that was right in front of him the entire time.
Yes, sir.
And something I spoke about in my video for tomorrow is Trina Delgado. Trina Delgado is a new detective that came on board. And I was actually questioning why, all of a sudden, why a new detective? Why are they now bringing a new detective at this moment in time?
Yep.
And it may just be because of scheduling issues where the other actress couldn't kind of film the last couple of episodes. Who knows? But the point that I raised in my breakdown for tomorrow, and it's a snippet for my breakdown tomorrow, is with Trina Delgado, with what she did in episode 9, she looked at the case from a fresh pair of eyes, where Bobby DiFranco is looking at the case from an emotional aspect because he's very emotionally attached to the case because Stacey Marks was his wife. Yeah, they were going through their issues, they were going through their divorce and their problems, but he's emotionally attached and emotionally connected to this case. AUSA Tseng, he's also connected to the case in the sense that he's working for the Marquez cartel. Whereas Trina Delgado, she's a new detective. She's come in and she's now looking at all the pieces of the puzzle. She's looking at all these players and all the evidence. And then she's kind of come across one, obviously, which is Chen. This person apparently doesn't exist. Now, how the hell do you get someone who does not exist? Why is he a ghost? You know, is he linked? Is he, you look at Roberto Ortega and you look at him as a cartel leader and a boss, bit amateurish. The Marquez cartel, they have been a bit amateurish. So if this person is someone who doesn't exist, is this the person who is actually the final boss that wants to get things done himself? With the way he came into, you know, speak to AUSA Tseng in episode 7, he had the 2 Marquez cartel soldiers right besides him when he came and spoke to when he came into the office of AUSA Tseng, and he just strolled in, and AUSA Tseng kind of questioned, wait, how did you get in here?
Yeah.
And all of these little kind of pieces of puzzles are now kind of making sense. This person may not be who he is. He may not be a lawyer after all. Maybe he is the big boss. Maybe he is the big bad. And the reason why I say that is because I do believe a new threat will come up and crop up for Tommy just when he's dealt with the CBI, just when he's dealt with Jannard, just when he's dealt with the Marquez cartel, just when he's dealt with everything that he needs to deal with in Chicago, maybe even the problem with law enforcement, with Bobby DiFranco. Maybe he pins the murder weapon on Vic Flynn and gets rid of Vic Flynn that way. But just when he believes that he's finally conquered Chicago, in comes the next big bad who was right in front of our faces the entire time. And I said he has this kind of aura and look about him, which is just evil.
Way more. Yeah. I gotta make two funny comments real quick. Two funny comments. You are cooking. I saw a comment in the chat first and foremost because I also had the speculation. I was like, why are we just switching DEA agents all like out of nowhere? But and Hardwick went on like what they say, like family leave or something. I definitely think Hardwick is returning next week, and there's going to be something with that. What I don't know. But yeah, I think we definitely need to keep an eye out on the other girl. But I have always been very, very questionable about Ortega. I saw somebody say Ortega is the only drug person that I wish I could quote this exactly how it was, but when you talk about like his persona and everything around him, a lot of people just aren't really sold on him. His look, his statue, the kingpin look, you know, he said like how he looked less masculine with two women around him. but I agree because Chan does look more put together in the sense of like this does definitely feels a lot more like a boss. And it's interesting because you know, for sake of time, we'll move on to the next thing. But like it's interesting. We haven't seen Chan and Ortega together since he's been out. You would think he would be right there at the mansion once he was released. So I agree. I am very intrigued by your perspective of that, dear. That's gonna be cool.
I think it's you know, we've not had a situation like Milan for a very long time where Ghost was spooked. It'd be a really interesting storyline where Tommy is spooked.
Yeah.
And
we
Chen
really hasn't had that element at all.
And I think Gary Lennon has actually started to kind of bring that back in. You know, he was shot in season 2 by the Serbs. He was, you know, Vic had him tap dancing in episode 8 as well. Vic had him tap dancing. So Gary Lennon has actually started to peel back the layers of Tommy's character, and he's not this Superman that he was basically in basically season 1, because that's what he was when he came back into when he first came to Chicago in season 1. He kind of took over Chicago a bit too easy, or entered to Chicago a bit too easy. And he should have. This is someone who was coming from New York. Chicago do it very different compared to New York. And at times you'd probably laugh when I say this, but it did feel like Tommy was kind of on GTA missions at times in season 1. If you get what I mean. Episode 2, they were driving around the city completing drops. It was like they were kind of completing side quests on GTA. He didn't feel quite like Tommy, but now he started to peel back the layers. You saw Che with the spanner on his finger and you know, really pressing down, you know, not cutting his finger off, but close to cutting his finger off. But they really brought his character back in season 2, and I think Gary Lennon spoke about it when he named the episode title, episode 1, Tommy's Back. Tommy's back, and that was officially Tommy being back. And you know, I love what he's done with Tommy's character since, but I do think it's now time to kind of, you know, give him some real problems to deal with. And if Chen is that final boss, that kind of segues into potentially what comes after. I think we may have potentially nailed it, which you know, thanks to the great question from Great Sage.
Man, we got 3 more super chats, folks. DeMarcus Vaughn back with a $2 super chat. I wonder if Madam Wu is related to Chan. Teaching Chan. I would like for you, Devon, to elaborate on your theory on why you wondering that and what that might mean, and we'll come back to that because I'm curious to see what you might be sparking up there. Gemini Don 524 with a $5 super chat. Really appreciate you. I laughed at Jannard saying him and Vic would be on top of Tommy then Pop. I absolutely laughed as well too. Tommy in episode 101 saved them from the Yardies. Tommy schooled them all. It's absolutely comical. But like, what do you expect a guy like Jannard off the fentanyl or whatever he's on at the time to say to Vic. And Vic, you know what, MB, Vic is another character that, like, I don't think a lot of people put as much emphasis on his immaturity as well, too. My boy is such a lover boy. Like, he's all about love. It's the only thing he cares about. And I know he's in his family and whatnot, but he's no gangster. He's no thug. He doesn't want any of life. In fact, he wanted it for Claudia, but based on the old traditions in Ireland, she couldn't be. So, like, yeah, he has a gun and does stuff, and he's killed his friend, who's actually would be another candidate of the "I killed my brother" conversation. But Vic only motives it would have seen was to have love and to get out of Dodge, but somehow he got off that plane and he now is after Tommy based on a trailer. But I guess we'll talk about that then. But yeah, Jannard and Vic, they're not sitting at the same table with Tommy. From what all we know Tommy to be from New York, from all he's learned in Chicago, those are just two little boys that wishing they could be on top of anything. In fact, if Jannard would just get off the drugs, like, he possibly could have had a claim in this conversation, but it's not happening. And Vic never cared about it, so that fell on deaf ears to Vic, if you ask me. You got anything you want to add to that, or we go to the next super chat? And we moving on. Great Sage 8. The cartel is proxy for the Chinese. Look at Madam Wu too. Two-pronged approach. This is how the Chinese do business in real life. Infiltration. Woo.
Love that point.
I will quickly firstly say, do Power have the balls to do a move like this? Because this will be the first of its type. I've seen it in other shows.
Yeah, this is another point I raised in my breakdown. It's I would love Power to take a new fresh take, a new fresh threat, a new fresh problem for Tommy, Tariq, that they have to come to together, where they have to deal with them together. And this the angle of Chen, the angle of the Chinese, Madame Wu, and the whole Chinese storyline, that could very well be potentially a new angle that they kind of go down before they kind of get to Tommy's endgame, which they've now teased, which I still believe will be the Italians. Before they get to the Italians arc, is the arc Chen and having to deal with these guys before they kind of deal with whatever else they need to deal with. Because I still believe Elisa Marie will end up coming back later on. So I think there needs to be an arc before that, which could potentially be the Chinese.
Okay. Y'all are asking some amazing questions tonight. We really, really appreciate the commentary coming from the chat. All right. I think for the sake of time, we got two more things here. Obviously, we haven't talked about it, so I think it's about that time to talk about the last thing of this episode, and that's Diamond's death. I having a chance to speak with Isaac, and that interview is available now on the channel. And I really do hope. Actually, I haven't took a look at his socials, but in speaking to Isaac, he told me that he was having a watch party, and he was no one of his attendees were going to be aware of what his fate was going to be in that episode. So I'm curious about what the reactions have been from his friends and family that was what was in attendance, and then I'm ultimately very interested to hearing Diamond and Jannard, so Isaac and oh my god, why is this name slipping out of my head? The actor who plays Jannard, but I'd be very interested to Chris Lofton. Yeah, Christy Lofton. Thank you. I'd be very curious to really see them really dissect this episode down. And I know they've done interviews. We got a very lengthy and an amazing interview over at the Chronicles of Power. Kimi has one. But I would love to kind of see them really bounce off of each other about everything. And maybe it has to wait till everything's all said and done, because I think there's so much nuance in the conversation that Diamond had with Jannard that spoke about, black males and their vulnerability, regrets about being incarcerated, about wanting to keep his brother close throughout that, and selfishly pulling him into the game. And this goes to we spoke about this last week on our show about sort of the same parallel to this. If you've been watching BMF with homeboy that was in St. Louis and his brother that was supposed to be a baseball player, no different than Jannard, who had this promising baseball potential collegiate career, and also obviously was a combat athlete as well. So like at the end of the day, this was somebody that was poised to get out of the hood, but you kept him close because you wanted your brother close by, and you did all that. Then you lost sight of that because you started worrying about the business and the expansion of the business, and Tommy sort of replaced something that you had initially set forth in having. And then when it came down to these final moments about Diamond laying it all out on it and wanting Jannard to meet him at the same emotional capacity and honesty and vulnerability, he didn't. And he had lied, and he had already been sort of in his head about Jannard based on the conversation that Shanti sort of just laid out on the table and told him to kind of do as he pleased with it. And then ultimately getting to the point where Jannard and what would have possibly been a fatal shot for Jannard steps in front of him and takes the bullet for him, for somebody that wasn't on good terms with his brother at this point, you would have to say, because he had lied. He knew what that meant. And Isa said in our interview that had this not had went that way, that Diamond would have had to have put his brother down, because he understood the liability that he had, that he was and would have been moving forward. It's an amazing arc for these two characters from the very beginning. Brilliant performances from the two of them, and in a way that a lot of people didn't predict Diamond to being killed in episode 9. Many thought it was going to be Jannard's fate, episode 9. They did a very good job and almost pulling the rug from under the chair on us and going a different approach, but also like really bringing the arc of Diamond full circle. And I guess we got one more for Jannard, but they just did such a fantastic job and like really weaving through so many different things from these characters from the very beginning. So I throw to you, that's sort of my sort of dissertation of it. Diamond's death, man. Like, what do you feel? And maybe don't worry about next week episode, your thoughts about what happens next week, because we're getting to episode 10 predictions as our next and final topic. But Diamond's death, when you think about all this character has meant to this series, all this character has meant to where we're at with so many different other characters and the stakes in Chicago, do you feel that they did Diamond's arc justice in a way of him stepping in front of the bullet for his brother? And also too, I do not like that social media allowed us to confirm his death instead of not leaving it open for us to ponder on this come next week. I don't the whole idea of storytelling and cliffhangers, they understand the execution of that. So why like do yourself a disservice by letting social media confirm things that let's keep it 100. Claudia was dead last season until she wasn't.
Yep.
So why? Why? Yep. But go for it. We got a super chat right after that. 2 super chats.
Yep. Yeah, we'll get to the super chats. I think with Diamond's death, for me, I think it was quite poetic. I think it was quite poetic in the way Jannard took Tommy's brother, and then you had Tommy taking Jannard's brother. Even though Tommy wasn't intentionally aiming for Diamond, I think he was actually kind of hurt that and shocked that he did hit Diamond, because he was aiming for Jannard, because there was still a lot of respect between the two. There was a lot of respect between Tommy and Diamond, and you saw it when they had that conversation earlier on in the episode. When Tommy got to Chicago, you saw him and Diamond kind of just hit off with their business relationship pretty much straight off the bat, because these were two OGs who kind of started operating the business probably in the same way. I think they mentioned they both started selling weed. They were driving around in episode 2, talking about what they kind of did, and he was definitely hurt, hitting Diamond instead of Jannard. So there was definitely a lot of respect between the two. But at the same time, when they met in episode 9, the meeting between Tommy and Diamond, as much as it was about respect, it was a formality of Tommy basically giving Diamond the heads up. He's gonna kill Jannard regardless. He's gonna come for him, and he's gonna kill him, and whoever's standing in his way is gonna have to go. And it was quite poetic. I found it quite poetic in the sense, it's a brother for a brother. You kill my brother, and now I've taken your brother. And we circling back right to the beginning of this podcast, I raised the point of how Tommy dealing with JP's death will be different to Jannard dealing with JP's death. Sorry, Jannard dealing with Diamond's death. These are two characters who are gonna react very differently. Very differently. But I think with Diamond sacrificing himself, there was a conversation between Elijah and Jannard in season 1, episode 4. It was a conversation around Jannard's past where he'd been accepted into college. He had plans to go to college. He had plans further education rather than the drug business. But then, Diamond was sent to prison for the Bad Batch that he created that killed dozens in the streets, and he was sent down for 15 years. And I believe that Diamond in that moment thought, I've taken Jannard's future away from him, and you saw him kind of just give his life for his brother in that moment, because he took his life and put him in charge of CBI when he had another future. And that's why I think Diamond sacrificed himself. But again, quite poetic in the way it was a brother for a brother.
Indeed. I also just want to quickly say, I don't know, man. Addiction is a real thing. And, sometimes people have to have the most critical, eye-opening moments in order to pry themselves off of it. And I know war is imminent, but could this possibly be something that he felt would make Jannard finally see the light? Who knows? Getting to a couple of other super chats that popped up. Great interview. Well, thank you very much. I say, what do I say here? MB, what do I say here? Because I feel like you gave a super chat, so I feel like I should say something here. I'll tell you what. Stay tuned for next week's interview. That's what I will say. Yeah. Stay tuned for that one. I'm sorry, really quickly, let me make sure I properly read this one off. This is from Marley B_sister with a $5 super chat, commenting great interview. And it says 2 great interview. And maybe you're talking about multiples, but either way, I appreciate the love. And then I go to Ice Cracked the God 7961 with a $2 super chat. Force going to 15 episode. I said it first. No, Force is wrapping up next week on episode 10, but 15, that would have been insane. But I don't know. I wish sometimes they would do some instead of giving these odd breaks, do something a little unpredictable and unpeculiar, and give us either a longer episode or more episodes. But
I think the fact that everybody wants more of Force just shows how well the season is written. Yes. And it's brought the OG power vibes back, like we said before. And how I basically said Tommy was back in season 2, episode 1, which was ironically the episode title of Tommy being back. The entire season for season 3 feels like OG power being back with the intensity, the writing, Gary Lennon. They've done a great job with all these triangles with various different relationships, the angle of Tommy, Diamond, and Jannard's relationship. Everything that they've done with this particular season. And one thing that, what they've done really well with this particular season is it gets branded a lot throughout every other Power show, and it does have a meaning. But I do think it means a lot more for Power Book 4 Force is nobody's safe in the world of Power. And nobody is ever safe in the world of Power.
Yeah.
And I think at times there was too much plot armor around characters in Power Book 2 Ghost, especially with the Tahadas. I think they would have, really benefited if they if they were a bit more ruthless. Whereas with this season in particular, or for season 3, honestly, Niger, can you actually go into this final episode and say for certain that Mireya is going to survive? Can you say for certain that can you say for certain that Kate's going to survive? Or, you know, if we even hadn't had the announcement of potentially Power Legacy and, you know, this not being Tommy Egan's final chapter, I think we'd probably be having a conversation where, is this the end of Tommy's arc? Do you know what I mean? And it's the testament to the writing of Gary Lennon and the writers that we're now asking these questions, and, you know, them actually bringing forward that term, nobody is safe in the world of power.
Yeah.
So great question.
I will also say too, the other thing we also have to consider is that the one thing Power does so well is that supporting characters are all interesting as well too. I mean, like, we spent time talking about Kate, who is like top tier supporting character, but we all love her. Mireya, supporting character. JP, D-Mac, supporting character. Outside of Jannard, Diamond, and Tommy, everybody else are basically supporting characters, and they just do a good job in making sure that everybody in every aspect of that character sort of have a stake in the story, and it just keeps us invested. Miss Dot 2D516 with a $10 super chat. I love my Power Universe host. Thank you for your hard work, fellas. Well, we thank you for showing up to each of our channels, and we really look forward to more collaborations. And anybody, again, I might just be coming here at the channel that may not be familiar with MovieBot for whatever reason, again, be sure to either go in the description right now on this video, or just click his name, or just look up MovieBot on all socials, but definitely on YouTube to catch character breakdowns. He's already gave us a little hint of who's tomorrow, in case you didn't, in case you missed that. But more character breakdowns on the way, as all road leads to the finale next week. Now, Terrell Berry 2592 with a $5 super chat that was blank, so I assumed there was just a bunch of love in that one, but that's okay, because you came back with the next one that says, I just wanted to say this to the host and to the chatters. My family gets so jealous when I get to stray on the chat after the show. Yeah, family. Hey, listen, who knows what time zone everybody's in when they show up. But one thing that is never ever taken for granted.
And I am here.
One thing that does not be taken for granted is everyone's full dedication, love, fandom, compassion, input. This is what we do it for. Like, and listen, that's not a statement of saying you need to agree with everything we say. That's not a degree that we just are happy that you're giving donations and you just, you know, like hearing us talk. No, that's just because y'all are truly the catalyst of this community. Like, you all are the people that make this community go in the right and positive direction, to the point that when we talk about spinoffs, when we talk about the expansions, where we talk about, you know, other actors and whatever joining the universe, it all starts here. If we're not watching it, if we're not showing up, if we're not participating, we're not doing all this thing, none of this matters, period. So we definitely appreciate you all, and yes, y'all are also family as well. Man, next week's gonna be crazy. Sizzle O Flex 3121 with a $5 super chat. Off topic, but with Origins, is it going to be a dual timeline since that's what you were saying up there, that Origins is going to, the first season is going to be 18 episodes showing Ghost and Tommy as teens and fit Breeze in as well. Yeah, okay, so that we do know. We do know that Origins is going to be a continuation after Raising Kanan, and I'm guessing, just to be honest, that it was smart to basically just call the show a new show, because you bring in two characters that everybody's going to resonate with, instead of it just being Kanan season 5. But I imagine that it's just going to just flow right into it with Kanan, with Ghost, Tommy, and Breeze. So yes, I think that timeline is that's just going to be that timeline for that. Now with Legacy, it's supposed to stay current in this timeline based on rumors and whatnot. We don't have anything confirmed, which is again why we're excited for what potential news could come out after the finale, which is supposed to be the Tommy and Tariq and the New York and Chicago timeline currently, as we know from the flagship show of Power. So yeah, 2 timelines, and I would expect them to happen concurrently, and which is great because now either one, and I mean, well, Origins, of course, we know where that has to eventually lead, but they're going to be in no rush in getting there. But this one, at least we have no clue where they could go, and because the playground is so big now that anything is possible. But also bring back influence. I'm just going to keep saying that. But if you don't bring influence back, I'm going to lose my mind. Like, put influence back on the docket, folks. All right. Last thing to talk about tonight is our predictions for episode 10. And we have talked a lot about things throughout the conversation tonight. So MB, I'm gonna give it to you. We got about 10 minutes left on our mark here. I'm just gonna give it to you cold turkey, man. Episode 10, what's happening?
Oh, bloodbath. We are seeing characters being taken off the chessboard in episode 10. I'm just actually bringing up the episode trailer, so
okay,
so I can flick through all the
scenes
and all the plot, all the scenes and the plots. And I think, you know what, one of the angles that I'm really looking forward to seeing, we've spoken about it a lot in this chat anyway, so we've given quite a few predictions as we've gone along. So, you know, keep it short and sweet. Bobby DiFranco, AUSA Tseng. I'm really interested to see how the law enforcement aspect finishes. You know, does AUSA Tseng get cuffed? Vic Flynn, what happens with Vic Flynn? And does Bobby DiFranco kind of stick around in the world of Power? Because we know law enforcement kind of do love to cross over in the world of Power. Bobby DiFranco.
That's a good one.
You know what I mean? Bobby DiFranco, if he doesn't manage to catch Tommy in episode 10, which I don't think he will, does he kind of have this Cooper Sacks, Blanca Rodriguez, Jenny Sullivan aura about him? If you know what I mean, he's just kind of lingering around, always trying to kind of catch Tommy in the next Power show. Maybe even links up with Blanca Rodriguez, Jenny Sullivan. Cooper Sacks is now dead, but you know, he may actually kind of turn unhinged because of Stacey Marks' death. So, you know, going forward, he may potentially be one to watch. I don't think he's going to catch Tommy, but I do think he will put someone in handcuffs. Maybe AUSA Tseng. The funeral scene, you know, there's the funeral scene. I would like to think Tommy, you know, he's got the protection there to stop anything, to stop any kind of loved ones dying at the funeral. But with Jannard kind of being back on the product, being high, you just never know what he's capable of. You know, when he killed JP, killed King Kilo, killed Jojo. You know, when you say something to Jannard that he doesn't like, you know, even Kendra came into the basement and he said, "Damn, did Shanti do that to you?" And he probably wished she did rather than JP. So I think he'll blow up the funeral. I think there will be a heartbreaking death. I just can't pinpoint who it could potentially be. I'm kind of leaning more towards maybe Genesis and D-Mac losing another loved one, an innocent kind of being caught in the crossfire. I think the prediction in terms of Kate, the ticket for Mexico being booked for Kate is pretty much spot on. I think in terms of Shanti, I do think we can trust her. Leaning towards trusting her, should I say? Leaning towards trusting her. I think she's going to be the final boss in Chicago. And she'll basically be able to run the operation for Tommy as he kind of operates to go multi-city, does whatever he needs to do. But there is one thing that we've not spoken about, and it's the secret around Miguel killing Che's son. So I think I'll probably throw that back at you to finish things off with. Do you think that secret comes back around, and does Miguel survive for you? Because it was a very interesting kind of conversation that Miguel and Mireya had in episode 1, where she mentioned the reason he is in charge of the Insane Princes was because he killed Che's son, Armando, to take over the Insane Princes. So is that secret something that's coming back?
You know, it's funny. Miguel hasn't been mentioned at all tonight, and I keep thinking about Miguel and the thing with Miguel that I always jokingly say, but in a serious way, is Miguel in Miguel and Tommy is the Brian O'Connor and the Dominic Toretto for season 3.
Yeah.
And of course, we don't want either one of those characters to die. And yes, I know Paul Walker's passed away, but Brian's still alive. But I do imagine there being another form of sacrifice for Mireya and Tommy by the hands of Miguel. The only questionable thing is who then runs the IPs after that. That's where I just don't know. But I also do think Che is not making it out. Che has been selling wolf tickets now for 9 episodes, and I expect him to be taken off the board somehow, some way. But I haven't really thought about the ripple effects of it too much. But I do think that is a interesting plot point that comes about. But to Miguel's detriment, I'm not quite sure. I'm not quite sure at all. But yeah, that's the good problem, is that we just there is no one truly safe outside of maybe Tommy at this point. We just don't know. And I know a lot of people are saying Genesis comes off the board. I think Genesis is a safe bet to be gone, because now that leaves basically D-Mac with nothing in Chicago, so he can go his own way if need be. Tommy could go his own way if need be. There were too many
smiles. There were too many smiles from D-Mac. Way too many smiles from D-Mac in episode 7.
Yeah, so it's just one of those type of things where we hang it up in Chicago and we take some of these characters with us. And Mireya, where could she go? What could it mean? I really could sit here and really think legitimately about it, but I think the excitement about it is to not really know and to be very surprised and to really get caught off guard about how some of these possibilities could go. Really spark you all's mind to think, what could be next. But I do think, to your point, to your question, I think it does come up, but I don't think it's going to be to the detriment of Miguel. But I do think Miguel might I could see Miguel doing something very heroic, which I hate heroes complex in most shows, but I can see him pulling something like that. So
he is very much a family man himself as well, and I think him sacrificing kind of just goes along with his story arc, sacrificing himself, and it changes the perception of the audience base, where we're thinking, damn, that's not the way he's gone out. You know what I mean? Where we're thinking, not Miguel Garcia. Do you know what I mean? And I think you probably nailed it. It's something similar to what I've said a couple of weeks ago, where he will sacrifice himself. But last one, I think there is one thing we need to speak about just before we go.
Indeed,
do you think they took a break because there's a certain character that needs to walk over from New York? It's going to take it. Does it take 2 weeks to walk from
those Uber rides? Yeah, because clearly this character doesn't drive, doesn't have a car, has all the money in the world, one of the most expensive closets I've ever seen in television, and just, I don't know, something about cars and this character just never ever aligns. First and foremost, folks, y'all let us know in the chat right now. Tommy is calling in a favor. Who is answering? I really want y'all to spam right now who y'all think is going to be on the other end of that call. And I don't want to suggest y'all to go anywhere with that, because I really want to see this kind of go all over the board. But I think us here for the show, I think we're landing on Tariq. And I want to just ask you really quickly, if Tariq is the one that is answering the call, when we did see the final closing moment of Ghost and Tariq on the phone call as well too, talk to me about how this aligns. Are the timelines from Ghost and Force synced to a point that this makes sense? If Tommy is making a call in the middle of an episode, when does Tariq show up? And if he shows up, for what? And to what benefit does he show up for? Let's just call it what it is. Tommy's not making that call in the very beginning of this episode. This episode absolutely will start off with a funeral, I would imagine, marinate to set up the war. the big battle towards the end, and maybe 10 minutes at the end to kind of talk about the resolve about what's left and who's left and where they're going. So if he makes the call to Tariq, let's say before the war, because somehow, some way he's in a situation where he needs to call in a favor, then Tariq comes from Chicago to New York to Chicago throughout the duration of the show. Now we have to start thinking legitimately now, like how much time is passing. Because yeah, if he can, I guess he can just catch a flight instantly because Tariq has all the money in the world. But like, what would be the reason for him to make that call, and what impact would Tariq have in showing up? And I do see some people making some very interesting picks in the chat. But we got MB here, y'all, folks. So let's have at it before we wrap up. How does this make sense for Tariq?
I think from a timeline perspective, I think I've long said, you know, with the shows, the way they've kind of aired the shows, they had 2 seasons of Power Book 2 Ghost before they had season 2 of Force, which was unfortunate because of the writer's strike and things which were unfortunately out of their control. But with that happening, I think the timeline kind of goes out the window a little. And, you know, I get a lot of questions on, you know, doing timeline breakdowns, and it's one of those ones where I say kind of just go with the flow, whether they answer the timeline or whether they don't answer the timeline, because I think there does need to be a bit of a time skip for Tommy to call Tariq. Whether they answer that in episode 10, who knows? But going back to the phone call in itself, you know, when at the end of Go season 4, you had Tariq picking up the phone, and it did sound as if the other person on the other end of the phone, who we know or should pretend, we know it's Tommy. He's in trouble. He's in trouble because why else would he have to draft in Tariq? Why would he be calling in Tariq to you know, help him with this particular war? So I do think at some point in episode 10 there's going to be a twist where Tommy is going to be in big trouble in episode 10, whether the CBI have potentially maybe kidnapped someone, Kate, D-Mac, maybe that potentially happens where, you know, Miguel, so they kidnap someone and they need, and Tommy needs help. That could potentially be an angle that they go down. But I do think Tommy will find himself in some big trouble for him to have to pick up the phone to call Tariq, his nephew. Because if you go back to the conversation he had in season 3, episode 10 with Tariq and Ghost, he basically said the war that he had with the Tejadas wasn't his war. He wasn't going to get involved. But all of a sudden, he's now having to potentially ring Tariq. You know, we're all assuming that it is that he rings Tariq. But if he's having to ring Tariq, he has to be in some serious trouble in episode 10. Then there's a scene in the trailer where, you know, Tommy's behind a van. He's sitting there, his gun's jammed. He's got one person coming on the top of himself, on the top of the car, one on the right, one on the right, and one behind him. And all of a sudden, all 3 of them are taken out. And I do think that could potentially be the moment where Tariq enters, where he comes in and saves Tommy, in a kind of mirror situation when Brayden came in right at the end of Go season 3, episode 10. You know, he came in. He came in guns blazing, and he had Tariq's back. Could be a similar situation to that. In terms of the timeline, again, I'm not 100% sure. You know, even for me, who goes into so much detail, watching episode after episode, it's difficult to depict the timeline because of the gap and because of Power Book 2 Ghost, you know, airing 2 seasons before Force.
That makes me feel good because, like, the one thing I was not going to do was go and try to clear up the timeline. But, you know, I was going to call in a favor to figure it out. I tell you that. I will say this to wrap up. I agree with a lot of comments about why it doesn't make sense that Tariq comes, unless Tariq comes with, you know, his whole crew. Like, I asked him, I was like, Tariq doesn't come with Effie and Diana and the Tejadas maybe and Brayden. Like, does he not bring that whole crew of folks to set up shop? run operation and help for men and help make money. Who knows? I don't know. But I was wondering, how come Tasha's not a name being thrown around? They literally have a brother-sister relationship. And let's not act like Tasha can't get out there and do what she got to do, because let's not forget who put that shot on Monet at the end of that season. And it was on her own militia too. So like, how come Tasha's not getting any love here? And wouldn't that be crazy if Tasha showed up and then she was on another show right after this show? Wouldn't that be something? That could be super interesting if they went that route. But I would be all for it. And God knows if Tasha showed up, the array of other rumors that are going to come. Because for one thing, y'all not going to do is ever let Ghost die. But I don't know. I like to leave it right there. I like to leave it right there. We have one more last super chat, then we're going to crescendo this one out. And this one comes from R. Robbie 10437 _ Ronald $5 super chat to this point, which I'm glad this is here. Doesn't calling a favor mean somebody owes you one? Correct. What does Tariq owe Tommy? He refused to help Tariq. Why did they take the call off STARZ? Who knows? Who knows why they took it off? I mean, y'all could have been that joint spamming crazy and they could have lost control of it. They could retcon this. Who knows? It's just a lot of different things that I guess we're going to get an answer to in just 1 week. It's crazy to think that this time next week, everybody's going to be putting on their seatbelt, getting their drinks together, their popcorn, getting their last bit of extra content in. Because 2 hours from now, 2 hours and 7 days from now, the finale is going to drop. MB, man, it's been a complete honor to have you on today. The first of many, just to be very clear, folks. This was so much fun. And I think it's safe to say that our fans had a fantastic job with us on this lovely Thursday night. I can't stress enough, if y'all have not already went over to his channel and liked and subscribed, do so. And if he wasn't here in the very beginning, he's off camera because he has a goal and a dedication to his audience to say he not appearing until he hit 200,000. And I like that, because yeah, that keeps the motivation going. The content is dropping each and every day there. You got a new character breakdown dropping tomorrow for you all, fresh and early in the morning per our EST audience on the East Coast. And then y'all already know what it is next week. It's all road leads to the finale. We are going to be dropping content, some extra stuff, a lot of good stuff, a lot of exclusive stuff, some fun things. I ain't saying nothing else, but just be ready, because next week's about to be crazy. MB, anything you want to say before we roll out of here?
No, just it's been a pleasure for being here. Thank you for inviting me, Niger, and definitely the first of many. Definitely the first of many. I think everybody needs to probably get their tissue boxes ready for next week as well. I think there's probably gonna be some more tears after episode 10. But I think there's gonna be a lot of good news after episode 10 as well in terms of what comes next. There's gonna be a lot more power. Exciting to kind of see what they give us in terms of new shows, and whether Tariq pops up and whether he doesn't. So let's see what they hit us with. But definitely, I'm sure me and Niger will be back here doing another breakdown soon. First of many.
Sounds good. Well, folks, it's been a complete honor and pleasure to serve you all for some Thursday content, talking Power Book 4 Force, episode 9, episode 10, and obviously as we look forward to all things within the Power universe. Thank y'all for coming through. If you haven't already hit the like button, be sure to do so right now. And we'll see y'all back in 7 days, 2 hours, 3 hours for the finale episode of season 3, the series finale. God, that's crazy to say. But man, hopefully we got some news about what's to come in the Power universe after that. Thank y'all for watching, folks, and have a good night.